was going to say, welcome back. Nice to be back.
Good to see
Next
you all.
episode.
Yeah, I'm all completely out of sync. This is still odd, but hello, welcome back. Nice to be seen, and hello.
Sportswear week. We had a good one, didn't we?
Yeah.
Well, it was different, yeah. We had some different items that we hadn't seen before.
Yeah, I was quite pleased they did a rugby shirt because I would like to have a rugby shirt until, of course, I seen how you do that construction, and I was like, maybe I'll just buy one.
Just buy one, it'll be easy.
Yes. And I completely feel for them on that first challenge of the rugby shirt, because there are so many layers in that placket. Following the instructions, because I did the challenge myself for the smocks dress.
Yes.
Yes.
I downloaded it and I'd set myself the challenge.
I did keep an eye on you at Instagram, seeing me.
Yeah, so did I.
That's my 3.5 deadline. That's my 3.5 hours.
But for a novice, you're still a relatively novice sewer for clothes making. You did really, really well.
It doesn't quite fit. You need it a bit wide.
I think it suits it though.
You have to ignore that bit because I didn't get that far in the 3.5 hours. It literally was the bias binding on the back, the rouleau loop, and then I got to there. I couldn't understand. This is where I feel for Teresa and Liz in particular for this rugby shirt. I couldn't understand the instructions for how to then attach the Peter Pan collar to the neck, because
not like that.
Oh, not like that.
No, the pattern, the way it was written and drawn, my brain, no matter how much I read it, couldn't compute when it said put it on the wrong side, and it clearly had a picture, but the picture didn't make sense to my brain. And then you're trying to follow the instruction, and some people are really good at following instructions. Some people have that, I don't know, is it type the way your brain works?
Yeah, it's right.
Yeah, yours doesn't do that, does it?
And I couldn't. So then I had to stop the clock. I only had about half an hour left anyway. So God knows how I would have got on with doing the embroidery stitches and the gathering. So yeah. So I YouTubed it, but then there were no tutorials on the way they did it on this dress. There were a different tutorial on how to attach a Peter Pan collar. So I kind of understand.
We definitely couldn't have YouTubed how to do that at the front then.
I kind of understand how Liz and Therese got stuck with understanding, right, if you put that on there, you need that flap to open, then you need another fly there with a button. My brain would have frazzled at that point.
Yeah, I think as well though, if you've had, like I've had rugby shirts, I've worn them in the past, you would know how that sits. If you've ever bought one or worn one of them, you kind of be able to guess, oh, it's going to be this.
Yeah.
But it's got that weird floppy thing.
It's then, so you kind of know that, but it's then the logistics of sewing it back to face back,
yeah, that's
face,
be able to reverse engineer it. It's like if you've worn it, you'd be able to reverse engineer it and go, okay, it must be like this.
Some people can really do that. It just hurts my brain where it just melts and then you end up in a little puddle on the floor crying. So it was interesting to see Teresa and Liz struggle with that, because
Liz struggled with this one, didn't she? God love her. Yeah. Once she made that mistake, and she also made a mistake with her collar, and now that I've actually started sewing things more myself, I'm remembering like, oh, this is hard. So
we have our 9 sewers. We've just talked about Liz and Therese who were struggling with the plackets. Anyone else that stood out for you in that round as you were watching it? Because there were some great rugby shirts.
Yes, I loved Nicole's. I know you're a bit of a fan here, but it was fabulous.
Right from the beginning, her choice of fabric, I just went,
well,
I like Mark's fabrics as well, but he made a mess.
So I put my pink t-shirt on today before I get shot down too much about Nicole, but I get what you were saying about the fabric and like the almost Jack Wills type, and it was the navy blue and the pink, but the stripes were too narrow. It was too feminine for me.
But that's the joy of it. It's like they are now. You can have feminine and they are more unique.
Yeah, but it just didn't look. To me, the fabric the colours were great, which is why I put my pink on today. But I just thought that they needed to be wider stripes.
Yeah.
And it just didn't.
Some of them did have bigger, and some had the narrower.
Yeah, the more sort of true style. Yes, although Matt had the small stripe, the Breton, that lovely white.
Yeah, but he had, the uneven stripes, where hers were very, they were the same, and it just it made it look more feminine.
But I didn't like Matt's.
Did you not?
I said, no.
Did you not?
No. I seen it. I was like, okay, it was a good enough sew, and but his ends didn't meet and stuff. But generally, I looked at it and went, I don't quite like it. Whereas with hers, I think because there were strong colours, I really liked it, regardless of how big or small the stripes were. I was like, it was a really nice.
Yeah.
It was something I would buy in a shop quite happily.
You couldn't fault what she's done, and that for me was the thing, is like you had to accept that she'd made something really good, and all the skill was there. Just didn't, to me, I would have wanted those stripes to be a bit wider. I had her on my like side though. It was over there with everything that she'd done and managed to pull off.
She's been consistently good though, really, from the beginning, hasn't she?
Yeah, she had a good. Yeah.
She knows her stuff. She knows what she's doing there.
Yeah.
Well, I made the note that, early on I said that she was going rogue too much, and it was a bit like Ricardo last year and everything like that. Well, she's kind of brought herself in line and then realised where she can push it out a bit, because one of the things they picked up on is the fact that she used the pink thread on the button. And, that's how you make that tiny little difference than just sewing on an ordinary button. You don't go and do hugely contrasting pockets and all of those things that have got her in trouble in the previous weeks. It's the little things, and if you do it right, she deserved to win that without a doubt.
Definitely. I also wrote down that Claire I thought hers was bang on. It looked quite traditional, and it was proper.
It was always going to look traditional because she'd done a flat claret colour, there was no real contrast. She had a lovely collar with the white, and that again, it showed that she could sew. I also had Mark's blue one and Ali's red and white one on my list of ones that had really managed to pull it out of the bag. Yeah,
I liked Mark's colours a lot. Ali's, we might possibly have a cat visitor. I apologise if she saunters in.
Ali's was the red and white, but they picked her up on the cuff change.
Yeah, I had even written that down. I was like, what's with the weird cuff?
Yeah. She wasn't it kind of like an orangey colour?
It was not the right tone at all.
No. They obviously didn't have, because this is all fabric laid out in their haberdashery, isn't it? So I'm assuming they've got red and white jersey fabric there for the shirt, but I presume they didn't have red cuffing, so she had to choose orange.
I don't know, because they had a range there, didn't they, to choose from? Because they had the fabric for the placket, the cuffing, and everything there. But it would be bizarre if there was red and white fabric, but then she could have gone with a white cuff.
Yeah, I was going to say, if there was white cuffs, she could have gone with white very easily. But the cuff itself was red and orange, wasn't it? It was a weird red and orange stripe.
Yeah, looked like it, didn't it? But maybe, as you were talking about Nicole having that the originality on the thread with a button, perhaps that was Ali's little take. I'll just have a slight different cuff change.
But it was a good sew and everything. She did a really good job.
And I think you started to see out of the 9 sewers, just a couple now slowly going ahead. If it was a race, starting to reach out a bit further. I think, don't you think their skills starting to really shine through?
Definitely. Although I did laugh. Somebody who I was kind of surprised with, Peter, with his 2 right sleeves. I was like, that's just a serious throwback to last season, wasn't it? With Ricardo and his was it 2 left or 2? Either way, some of them had definitely the wrong sleeves at some point.
But again, that's where I didn't understand about the whole pattern and the fabric thing, because they went, well, cut out another one. He can't. Well, that's all the fabric I had. So it made you wonder. You thought, well, there's obviously not a big bolt of fabric there. They've obviously brought in, like, I don't know how much it took, a metre, 2 metres of fabric, and that's it. And, okay, so we couldn't get out of that. But that's where you feel for them, because, again, if you were at home, you would cut yourself a new sleeve. You wouldn't just go, oh, let's sew it on and see if they notice.
I have to, since doing that challenge myself and setting that 3.5 hour time, I now know how easy it is to sew something either upside down or 2 right sleeves instead of a right and a left. Because when I put my top to the skirt, and this is overtime, this is like hour 4 now, hour 4.5, it was that whole right sides together thing. I had it inside out, but I didn't have right sides together. So when I did turn it the right way out, that was inside out and that was right side out. And then you're just like, how did I do that?
Well, because you didn't follow the instructions to put right sides together.
Well, I did, because I think I kept saying it to myself. But by that point, I think my brain was frazzled. So you just think, how easy was it for Liz to put that collar on upside down?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or how to cut 2 right sleeves out.
Yeah.
So
they're under so much more pressure as well. So it's an intense thing. But there were, you said, there was definitely some serious standouts.
I think so, yeah. So we had Nicole and Claire coming first and second in that, the final lineup, and Peter and Liz bottom.
Yeah.
Understandably so. Nothing to query there with the judges' decisions there, I don't think, was there?
No, I mean, I thought they were harsh on Liz because she had put the collar on backwards, but then, or inside out, or whatever she'd done, but she unpicked it and put it back on. And Patrick said, you've done really well to even get it finished. And then they put her last. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying she should have been up there, but it was that kind of thing of like, oh, okay then. So...
Yeah. But I think, because, I think there was a lot of maybe, because there was lots of colours that didn't...
it didn't align quite nicely.
Hazel her colour was wonky, and she also her material got caught when she was doing her placard, so there was a pucker at the front of her and stuff. So there was a lot of not quite so great ones this week for the first challenge.
Oh, and then obviously Hazel was 7th there. So we've got Hazel, Peter and Liz. But at that particular time, at the end of the first round, we really only saw, edited-wise, Peter and Liz being pretty
struggling.
I didn't even think at that point that Hazel was anywhere near the danger zone. But I did enjoy seeing those rugby shirts. So transformation challenge then.
There was some really fun ones. So the toddler waterproof onesie. There was some seriously fun ones. Oh my God. I know Hazel's wasn't possibly the best, but I love the fact that she went to the whole fuss of having that big princess style wraparound thing afterwards. I thought that was
awful.
Oh, I loved it. I thought it was hilarious. Come on. What kid would not love just running around?
You're the Esme and you're the Patrick, aren't you? Because this is where I've got my beef about the editing and watching this transformation challenge, because Hazel finished 4th in this round, but it's not until you see the blurb when Patrick and Esme are talking. Patrick says that he feels he didn't agree with Esme about Hazel, and he would have put Hazel right at the bottom. So you clearly didn't think it was any good.
Well, I took umbrage with the whole challenge. I thought, we're here on Sportswear, and we knew we were getting a tennis skirt and we knew we were getting a rugby top. And I just thought a child's onesie out of a cagoule is not sportswear. It's working with horrible fabric. And last year they had to do something similar, and it was those dog coats, if you remember.
Yeah.
But it wasn't on Sports Week. I think, there could have been stuff that they could have done that was a bit more sports related, maybe, or even used some sort of sporting outfit. I thought they were going to have something horrible like a shell suit or something.
Indeed.
And
I just thought that okay, it's a challenge, it's 90 minutes, but we had Kids Week last week where they had to make something small, and it was just a onesie. Don't get me wrong, there was a lot of technical stuff going on, but I didn't think it fitted with this week's challenge.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, I never really considered it. Well, to be fair, it could be considered sporty. Have you seen kids in onesies running around like lunatics?
Yes.
They're quite active. So maybe it's considered active wear rather than...
Maybe.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
They were helped. They all helped themselves, so to speak, because they all managed to choose 2 good colours. There weren't really some horrible combinations of colours. That helped a lot of them. You know, Mark was able to put those yellow panels in. We had the orange and the blue going together that was Ali's again. You know, okay, there was a bit of misshaping there, but it did. And Therese had all the pinks. You know, they'd chosen good colours. And then it just came down to their design and how they put it together. But I just thought, I didn't think much to it, because I thought we had kids last week and it's not really a sporty thing. Yeah. It seemed like a shoehorning in challenge.
And they all did quite well. They didn't see many issues in the editing either. They just,
when you've got 2 kagools, you've got 2 arms on each kagool. Well, for a onesie, there's your 2 arms and your 2 legs. So you've just got to find a way to put it together.
That's what I was kind of surprised with, the fact that they had the arms and the legs, and some of them ended up with arms and legs that were. I'm like, what were you? I know.
Cut it off here, not up here.
I'm like, you definitely should have had some bagginess, without a doubt, because you want to have a child in clothes underneath.
Yeah.
But like, you don't need it that it's the leg is, you know.
Mr. Tickle.
It's just ridiculous. But there were some really fun ones. I was impressed with some of the creations.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing, because I suppose it was so easy to do in that time, as you say, because you've got the arms and legs there. So, but Nicole's the one where it's split in half with the zebra stripe and the.
I thought that was really clever. I was like, she clearly has got one of those before for her kids, because they were like, they're very popular. It's like,
the trouble I had again is you couldn't fault her sewing, but I didn't like the 2 materials that she she for me, she did have a really good week this week. I have to give all hands up, because I've given her a hard time in the other videos, and you can't fault what she did, but I just felt her choices of fabrics I couldn't go with, which made it hard for me to go, yeah, she's done really well.
Yeah.
But technically, she's done really well.
Yeah, I quite liked it. The one person I struggled with fabric-wise, and I went, was Matt.
Yes.
And his leopard and his fluffy.
Oh, I love that.
And
I love the bit of Bet Lynch.
First 10 seconds of being outside.
Oh please! If you were dressing your child in that, there's no way you're going outside. You'd be sat having cocktails under the gazebo, not playing in the mud.
That's true. Per child.
What do you think of Therese's then? Because she had that lovely camo pinky colour with the blue, but Patrick really, really fell in love with her finished items because of the extra blue panel in between the pink.
Yeah.
Because like you said, it wasn't a massively difficult... I mean, it is difficult. It's only an hour and a half. But in terms of piecing wise, to get that down the middle is fairly easy to do with the material and the pieces that they had.
Because you haven't got to worry, because you've already got the arms and the legs that you could just chop down. Yeah. So she'd used more skills in that time shown then.
Yeah. So she did the centre, and she also had the panels down the side as well, which tied in as well, didn't she?
Yeah.
I thought it was really nice. I wrote down very good.
Yeah. And Mark, you said that the navy and the yellow was nice, wasn't it?
Yes. That was my favourite kind of colour combination, wasn't it? The flowery.
He'd done really well because he only really used the yellow on the side panel, so it wasn't a huge glaring yellow streak. It was just quite nicely put in.
Very tasteful.
Yes.
Yeah. So the final standings there were Therese first, Nicole second. I mean, that was a close one, really.
Yeah.
Hazel fourth, and this is where I start to get on my bit of my high horse here, because clearly Esme loved it, but in the chat afterwards, Patrick talks more about how he didn't really agree, and then we had Ali and Liz at the bottom. So Liz was at the bottom again because she didn't really get anywhere with her sort of blue and black polka dots.
And it was a terrible fit. It
was terrible. The minute that child bent over, that was going to go right up the back.
Yeah, it didn't meet at the front, and it was like she got her measurements all wrong. I think she was, as she said, she got too distracted trying to make it all interesting. Get her measurements right, and the functional, you need to have a functional bit of clothing for that child to run around in. That's not going to happen with that tight thing. You basically have to stand still and not move. So,
You know, they're always going to be forgiving on the finish of the garment because it's done in 90 minutes, but you still have to have a basic construction and a look to it. And hers looked like it was about to fall apart.
Yeah, it didn't look quite finished at all.
So this is where
because I think we all then agreed at that point via WhatsApp that Liz was going to.
Yeah.
We said unless she pulls it out of the bag in the last shot.
Yeah.
And she really did, to be fair.
The thing was, which was, I'm sorry, this is probably what you're trying to say. The thing is we all said unless she pulls it out of the bag, but no one could say who was going to go home if it wasn't her. It wasn't really obvious.
No. That's when I then got annoyed because they cut to that little judge's decision bit, you know, where Joe talks to them, and they said, oh, well, it's at the moment it's Liz and Peter. And then Joe suddenly goes, I don't know for what reason, it cuts to Joe, and Joe says, and what about Hazel? Like, there was
so you're blaming Joe?
There was no need to talk about Hazel because Hazel was fourth in that transformation challenge.
But if you looked at her rugby shirt, her colours that made it, she had that puckering and it gathered the sticks. She made mistakes there.
Okay, agree. But that was seventh in that first round. But she was so high up in the pattern in this transformation challenge. I don't know why there was need to mention her. Why I thought it would have been probably more obvious to go, what about Peter?
It's called foreshadowing.
Yeah.
It was probably filmed after.
And that's where I think you're right, because I think they needed to acknowledge to us, because I think I then texted you both and said, oh, does anyone have a feeling that Hazel might now struggle? And then
we're like,
except we all went, no, she'll be fine.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's where I'm like, oh, yeah, that just tipped me over the edge there. And then, of course, now for the whole made-to-measure one, I'm panicking about Hazel. So it's tennis outfits. What do we think of the tennis outfits?
I was excited about this.
Yes.
There was some really interesting, because there would be like, oh, that's quite a fun dress type, sporty dressing that you'd wear happily. Apart from, the only one I was confused with was Peter. What? That was not a tennis dress.
Yeah, see, and this is where I get on the soapbox again.
So here we go. You're on a roll this week.
He's taking over from you.
I think, yes, I know you can argue skills are important, but if you can't follow a brief, how can the end product then be assessed at all?
Yeah. This is the thing. I think because it was very well finished and incredibly well done, it demonstrated serious amount of skills, even with the weird pockets and the big high collar. Maybe he's maybe seen too many sports looks types brands, but I guess this is a whatever dress. It's like, it's clearly not. If you were actually doing sports in it, no.
Oh, you could. I mean, it was cool, but yes, you're right.
I think the other thing as well is you've got to remember that, you know, half of them broke out these vintage patterns to do all this with, and I don't know, didn't he design that or something? Because I don't think he had a pattern, did he?
Yeah, he did.
And then you take that into consideration as well. And Esme loved it because she loves all the doesn't she?
I mean, it was great. Don't get me wrong, it was great. But when you're then looking at who's bottom, Peter was, 8th out of 9 on the rugby shirt. He completely missed the brief, so he was kind of bottom or one of the bottom for the tennis outfits.
Yeah, but then he comes back to demonstration of skill.
Yeah, no, but
and it was an incredibly good sew. Like, it was demonstrating the zip in that material. Even Patrick was like, "Wow, that's impressive, getting the zip in." Wasn't it?
No, it's just being when you're. I'm just thinking back to our teaching days when you're judged and being assessed on following the brief.
But Hazel followed the brief perfectly. She self-drafted, and it was awful. God love her. It would have been stunning if she'd finished that. But
I mean,
this has to go back to the fact, Joe made it very clear as he's introducing it, going, don't forget, this is the one where they've been able to practice. Now, if you've practiced with 2 meters of material, turning it into pleats, you should be able to do it with your eyes shut when it comes to this challenge. And I'm not saying that's what brought her down, because she was doing those pleats, and to be fair, they looked good. There was something wrong with the fit, the final fit, but the overall pleating was fine. But you know, that's where you have to say to yourself, did you practice this at home, and did you manage to do it in 4.5 hours?
Yeah.
Yeah. And if not, why did you not then adapt it so you could?
Yeah. Because I reckon if she'd brought the pleats up and put them straight into, because she had that weird bugginess at the top, and then it didn't fit right in the
went into then a gather, didn't it, at the waistband?
Yeah. It didn't look right at all.
Just gone straight into the waistband. And
or even have it as a straight dress, like the old school ones where you have the pleats that just then go into, you know, the old school where they had the really deep pleats and it was just all one.
Yeah, I mean that's where you could argue they got her on it, because obviously when you've got a real model stood there, what she didn't seem to do to me is she did all her pleats, but then, like you're saying, it was fitted on the hip, and she hadn't allowed for that fitting on the hip, so that she just kind of sewn the bottom of around the pleats, and it bagged out. Yeah. And therefore it looked like it didn't fit properly, and it was just because she'd put that in the wrong place. And that's where you do think, well, that you've got they're there all day, you've got your measurements, they can put it on and off as much as possible.
Yeah, adjust. But
I mean,
it would have been so stunning.
Oh God, it would. I mean, I loved that sort of chevron that came down on the front. But so she was clearly bottom with then Peter. Well, that's where you can argue whether he followed the brief but it still was a stunning make. Anyone else in that one that you loved? I mean, what about Ali's?
Well, I mean, she chose good fabric. She chose those two, you know, the complementary colours between the floral and the leopard print was great. And I love the fact that she ran up a pair of gym knickers in like 5 minutes.
Yeah. I think that's what helped seal the deal with her. It was like, right, I'm just going to whip this up, because her and Claire, they were both, well, Claire's was, she had a bit of bagging at the top, at the strap and stuff.
Didn't like Claire's.
I preferred Claire's over Ali's. I like Ali's was an incredible sew. I didn't like the material. I just didn't.
What, Ali's?
Yeah.
Oh, you see, that was my issue with Claire's. I didn't like the science material.
I loved it.
No.
I thought it was really fun.
Do you think it would have been better, as Esme said, had the science fabric been in the middle and the solid there?
Well, that's the sort of standard with, if you're doing for, you know, if you want that nice cut, that nice lean look, you always put the darker bit on the outside and you've got that attention coming in.
Yeah.
So it's more that, but I think it worked fine as it was as well. I was like, well, it's actually quite nice. I really liked it. I liked the colour.
She'd sewn it very well, but it was a fabric choice for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I was the opposite. I didn't like Ali's fabric choice, but that's just my personal taste, you know, so. But Ali's was a better finish. She didn't have any of the puckering. It was nice and smooth. Her back was really perfectly done. And she was able to get those beautiful, like she got those knicker shorts done. It was really good.
I liked Matt's 80s neon that had the tennis ball on it as well. That was really good.
He could have been at the top had he pulled that top off. I mean, that top was a bit of a mess, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Collar, and he messed up the raglan sleeve, hadn't he?
Yeah.
He was another one who had been doing pleats in his skirt. And, you know, not that you'd know after you did, but all of those kilts I made for you at one point, I know from putting those pleats in, you know, it's not a quick thing to do because everything's got to be pinned and ironed and pressed before you can even stitch it. You know, he, a bit like Hazel, would have just spent a long time putting those pleats in.
Yeah.
But lovely colour, though, of Matt, wasn't it?
Oh, I loved it. It was really good fun.
Loved it.
I have to say, I absolutely loved Liz's. I thought it was really, really good.
I was so relieved for her.
Oh, yeah. And I think it was that bra that she decided, she was really clever, and she actually prioritised what had to be done. And then she was like, okay, I do have time to do the sports bra. So she did the sports bra.
Yeah.
Rather than trying to do it first and then maybe going wrong.
Yeah, she was in complete control of that time. I think she had spent time practicing that clearly. She knew what she was doing for that whole round. Didn't she?
But I felt really pleased that she'd managed to pull it off because I thought it looks really good. And then part of me was like, oh, it's such a shame she's going to go home. Because I honestly thought still that even though she'd done something and I thought, you know what, we said you need to pull it out of the bag. Yeah. You seem to have pulled it out of the bag. But I just thought, bottom of the other two, there's no coming back from that.
No. But I think, as we were saying earlier, the fact that she was at the bottom with the rugby, they possibly did also consider the fact that she was able to put that together, and there was some good sewing. The finish wasn't great, but like there was some good sewing, and she was demonstrating skill. Although the second challenge.
No.
So I was surprised, delighted.
I just thought, oh, she's made such a good garment, but they're still going to send her home. That'll be really bad, because it still hadn't. Even though you'd kind of said, oh my God, is Hazel in trouble? And I was like, nah, she'll be fine.
But it was when we actually started to see her final garment, Hazel's final garment, I was like, oh yeah, she's in a lot of trouble.
Yeah. But we then still even thought, oh no, that won't be Hazel, even though I thought it now could be Hazel. But we still then said, oh no, it could be Peter.
It still could have been Peter, because, you know, like you said about that whole thing, it didn't work as a tennis dress.
No.
And, you know, was that enough for them to say, well, you didn't do very well there, you didn't do very well there, and now you've done a dress that's not really a tennis dress?
Yeah. I think the only thing saved him was his finish. Like, if he hadn't made any mistakes in that, he would have been done. But because it was a good show, I think that's the only thing that saved him, really. But I also felt like Therese was a good fit as well. I wasn't entirely sold on, it was funky, but I was like, that's more like a dress you'd wear going out. You know what I mean? It was obviously a tennis dress, but it was because, as she said, but she was she making
She's got that metallic print, hasn't she?
Yeah. And she has Serena in mind, didn't she, I think, for the whole of that design. And I thought, I could see her on the tennis court wearing that.
Yeah, it's quite fun.
But this is where, I mean, going back to the whole challenge, because Ali and Claire had the same pattern. Therese and Mark's were pretty much the same pattern, because I suppose if you were to go out there and type into Google, I need a tennis dress, there's only so many you could have had. And you know, Mark and Therese and Ali and Claire, they all did some good sewing, and there were some technical bits in there, like the whole inside out thing for Ali and Claire's. But then when you looked at Nicole, who was doing the toweling shirts and the cotton top, and then Hazel, who was putting all these pleats in, and Matt, who was putting all these pleats in, you have to then say to yourself, why did you choose that pattern with all of those pleats? Because that was clearly going to be a very time-consuming part of your construction. And then, not to degrade what the others have done, but, you know, Mark and Therese now, they just sewed together like 4 panels. Okay, they had to make it fit, don't get me wrong, but that was it, and put some sleeves in.
Big contrast, though, isn't it, from pleated skirts? Yeah.
Well, maybe this was her attempt at going, look at how awesome I am. And
well, you can't blame them for that either, but that's when you should have practiced more.
And I'm sure you would have been able to get a pattern for that sort of traditional style, because it was, when you looked at it, it was a vintage style outfit, and I'm sure there would have been patterns for it.
So tell me, what did you think of Nicole? What did you think of Nicole's Anya? The blue top and the white shorts, the toweling shorts.
I thought it was quite fun. I quite liked it. It looked very simple by comparison.
Yeah, I couldn't quite work out whether I liked it or not.
Yeah. When they said Nicole is going to use terry toweling for her shorts, my eyes went so far back in my head, you would have thought I was a heroin addict. Because it was just like, here we go.
Yeah.
But she did a good sew on it, and...
Yeah, but I just thought, why would you want to wear terry? The only people who wear terry toweling are babies. You don't... That's going to be hot playing tennis, and then you're going to sit down, it's just going to soak up any drink that's been spilled, hasn't it?
But it's also going to wick away the sweat and stuff, right?
It would have been nice to have, terry toweling sweat.
All the sweat you're sweating because you're wearing terry toweling.
Or around your head.
There was a trend, like, not too long ago, wasn't it? I remember Terry, I can't even say it, but there was a lot of trackies with that material.
Really?
Yeah. Do you not remember? It was all the rage.
Other than a dressing gown,
neon.
Other than a dressing gown, you should not be seen out in public in terry toweling.
Was it not J-Lo or someone who brought in that trend in the 90s? Someone like that?
I thought that was velour. That's what we needed this week, a nice velour tracksuit.
What did you think of Mark's Twiggy style, 60s style one?
I liked it. It's a shame his pockets were baggy.
Yeah.
I did feel for him on that, because it was a tennis dress, and if you watch any tennis, they do have pockets built into them so that they can hold, you know, a couple of balls. And So he had to put them in. He couldn't not put them in. And I don't think they were that bad, but it's the way they lay. I mean, you can't get away from the fact that you have to have the innards. And so therefore, because he was working with a lycra material, it showed up. And I just felt that they were giving him a hard time for that, because it's like, well, that's not, you're never going to be perfect on that given the material they were using.
No, and to be honest, after the first use, they would have been very baggy anyway, because you're shoving
it, stretching it.
Yeah.
So.
But I love the colours and the style. Yeah. It was great, wasn't it?
Yeah, I really liked his as well. I wrote down traditional pockets, shame about the pockets, but that was it.
It was a good example, because him and Therese, I think, had the same pattern, didn't they? But she did hers in the metallic stuff. But it was that thing of like, just go simple and do it right.
Yeah. Demonstrate your excellent skills.
Yeah.
It was, I mean, from that whole point of editing point of view, this whole last sequence was great, because those last 5 minutes, we were like, oh my God, Liz, or it's Hazel, or God, Peter. It was well done. It was well done, wasn't it?
It was. I think, this was definitely it was definitely more interesting, I thought, this week slightly. But yeah, it was up and down a lot as to who was going to go. Yeah. I was definitely worried that Peter, because of his right sleeves and that I thought, he's going to have to watch himself next week. I know this is all pre-recorded, so he's already probably got himself sorted. But
he's already at home crying into his coffee.
How dare they say such things about me? But it'll be interesting to see if he adjusts his style a bit more, similar to how we see Nicole set. Whether he will also be like, okay, I'm going to be really good to follow on.
Seeing someone like Hazel go home, though, does things like that, because they will have seen that she's not been that bad. Okay, that tennis dress wasn't the best, but like you were saying, in the other challenges, she hadn't done that bad. So if that had been me, I'd have gone home that week going, oh my God, it could be me next week because she wasn't that bad. You had to acknowledge that there were other people in there who were worse.
I think Peter will have done that, because didn't it cut to Peter at the end and he's like, oh, I think it's going to be me. I thought it was going to be me. I think, completely.
And even Liz a little bit, I think. She'll come back, because she had a really bad whip. I mean, like we were saying, after 2 challenges, I was almost like, well, we'll turn it off now, because who's going
I wanted to give her a big hug, because when she was almost in tears when they interviewed her, I was like, oh, Liz, oh no, isn't he okay? Bless her.
Alison Ali got Garment of the Week with her tennis dress.
Yes. That was a really good sew. I also forgot, she also did the pocket at the back. Which Claire didn't do. So she did the pocket and the knickers. So she definitely was like, okay, little details count. She probably seen Nicole's thing at the front, when she did the little details with her button. Yeah. Was like, little details. So that's how she made hers different to Claire.
And the pocket on the back was more practical.
Yeah.
To have the 2 balls round your back rather than on your side, then when you're playing, that makes it easier, doesn't it?
Yeah.
In the whole of the editing of that program, she was just getting down, getting it done, getting it down, getting it done. I think she's going to go a long way.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's clearly very, very skilled.
Well, you can't have her though. You wanted Therese, okay? We said about Ali at the beginning.
Nicole as well. I said it'll probably change every week, and I like Nicole.
Therese and Nicole. I've gone back to Nicole now. Back to what I said at the beginning.
I'll have you note that I was clearly a Nicole girl from the start, but just
hang on, she hasn't made it yet. She makes more fabric choices like she did this week. Won't be long before she's gone.
She did well.
No, she did do well this week.
But when they said Hazel's going home, I think we were all like that, weren't we? Or just like.
Well, I think at the end, no. When they showed her dress at the end, I was like, oh yeah,
I could understand. You could understand.
But then we've got next week, because they did the little bit of clip for next week, didn't they? And there was Patrick going, in the history of the sewing bee has never a bigger mistake been made. And now I was like, well, I need to see that now.
I know. I was like, oh, I want to see. I'm looking forward to seeing
who's done that.
Or should we have a guess?
Should we have a guess? I reckon Peter's done something.
Nah, I think it'll be Nicole.
Oh, you think?
Or it could be Liz.
It could be Liz, yeah. Or we'll just be completely wrong. It'll be someone like Ali.
Yeah.
But next week, so for the first time, because I don't think we've done it before on the Sewing Bee, we've got lingerie.
Yeah.
Yes. Fancy pants.
Lingerie and sleepwear. So what do we think they're going to be doing? Pajamas?
I think the made-to-measure one, the one at the end is pyjamas, isn't it?
Patterns.
So next week
Absolutely.
you'll be wearing your rugby shirt, will you?
No, next week I'll probably have this finally done.
I think he's going to wear it.
With the Peter Pan collar on. So maybe I'll have it finished for next week, but not a rugby shirt. I think there's less faff, isn't there?
I mean, you could be sporting quite a good look, couldn't you? You could have your palazzo pants and rugby top on. And then next week it's probably like some cami knickers. You could have them underneath.
So,
just to clarify, next week have we got to sit in our underwear?
Let's not.
well, like I say, I'm in my.
Otherwise, it's all going to be up here, isn't it? So.
Yeah, that's the one, isn't it?
Okay, I'll start digging my pajamas out then. I hope you enjoyed it all. Leave us your comments on what you've thought of who went out, whether you were a Hazel or a Liz fan, and whether you're disappointed or not. And if not, we'll see you next week, won't we?
Thank you for watching.
Yeah.
See you all later. Bye.